First and foremost, thank you everyone for joining today. We started Coffee and Waypoint and Friends last year, and it was really to bring your vendor partners together to talk about innovative things, really partner more together, break down silos, and just be closer in general to help serve our customers, senior living providers, skilled nursing centers, etc. So my name is Terri. I'm the founder of Waypoint Converts. If you've never joined one of our discussions, welcome. And if you've been before, thank you for coming again. And today I'm excited because I have Adrienne with us as a guest today, as our friend, our Waypoint and Friends. She's the co-founder of ADage Marketing. Adrienne and I met through a mutual client and got to know each other. And I think me immediately off of the get-go, we both had a passion for personalization. So that was it. So we're soul sisters around personalization if that thing exists. So I'm really excited to have Adrienne here to talk about personalization and the new buyer's journey and what we need to think of. So before I introduce Adrienne and have her kick it off, there is a chat here. Peggy is here to help field those questions. So at any time, if you have a question, please pop it into chat and Peggy will be monitoring that. And at the end, we'll have an open QA as well. And we're happy to stay on if anybody has any other questions or wants to dig into anything. So anyways, here we go. So let's go, Adrienne. Welcome. Let's dig into this and share something that's been a long time coming, a smarter, more aligned approach to engaging today's senior living buyer. So I'm going to stop sharing and turn it over to you so you can introduce yourself and get rolling.
Thank you. I'm really, really excited to be here. As I said, I am going to share my screen in just 1 second. We are lucky in that at Adage Marketing Group, we have had the opportunity, as Terri said, to let me just double check my screen share. Are we good?
That's called multitasking.
Yes. Okay, everybody can see. Great. So as Terri said, I am Adrienne Mansfield. I'm the co-founder of Adage Marketing Group, and we have spent decades really studying how personalization and segmentation and using behavioral data drivers transforms the buyer's journey and our marketing for it. So for today's session, we're going to show you in practice what that looks like. I think we're all aware that the industry has changed. Decision makers are staying in the funnel longer, in some cases coming in earlier, and ultimately expecting more tailored support. So, whether it's an independent senior who's exploring their lifestyle options or an adult child who's navigating the financial concerns of caring for an older adult, or a discharge planner partner, today's process in sales is no longer linear. So, we're here to rethink the funnel. Today, we're going to introduce a new, more dynamic model for lead nurturing, and you'll get to see firsthand how it improves your conversions, shortens your sales cycles, and ultimately eases the burden on all of our sales and marketing and admissions teams. And to help ground it in reality, we're going to introduce you to three real world buyers. In this case, we're going to talk to Mary, a prospective resident, David, who is a family caregiver, and Lisa, who is a referral partner. So they'll help us explore the three different but equally important lenses that these audiences apply to our sales journey. So for today, what you're going to take away from today's session is on a high level, understanding that today's funnel has changed and that we need to be able to leverage the data that we do have available to create a deeper understanding of the buyer's journey and meet them where they are on a more appropriate level. So that's hyper-targeted marketing and sales. And then, as I said, automating as much of that as possible to improve our lead nurturing and lift our conversions by delivering the right content to the right individuals at the right time. So in addition to the buyer's journey being much less linear than we remember it in the past, we also have some major pain points that have changed in recent years. So we're seeing longer decision timelines. Some of you may see that as higher drop-off rates or ghosting. Some of you may be seeing that as leads that are stalling. And I think we're more aware than ever of the emotional barriers around this buying journey. There is a lot of fear and guilt that acts as a brake to the gas that we're trying to apply on the marketing side. And when it comes to complex decision making, we refer to the circle of influence because there are multiple stakeholders involved with every decision. Recently, we even posted on social media that the dog is a silent influencer in the buying journey for senior living. And more than ever, increased competition with home care aging in place, that's leading to some of the stall, but even some of the newer care models are shifting people's preferences and in some cases confusing what they already didn't quite understand about how senior living works.
Adrienne,
I don't have time for back and forth. I need to know.
Pause. All right. So today we're going to introduce you to these three buyers. I showed you them on the first slide. Mary is a prospective resident, and she is someone who is just at the curiosity stage. So we're going to start with her story. And I want you to really sit with these examples, imagining your own prospects and the experience that you're expecting that they have or the experience that they're ultimately actually getting.
But I don't want to feel pressured. I want to explore at my own pace, maybe check out some activities, hear from other residents, and see if I'd fit in. If a community really understood that, they'd give me time, show me real stories, and make it easy to picture myself there without a hard sell.
What Mary wants more than anything is to belong. So when she receives generic marketing content or invitations to generic open houses, she doesn't feel like she's going to fit in there. And we all go back to our seventh grade first day in the cafeteria, right? So that's Mary's current experience. Let's look at David.
But the financial side is overwhelming. Before I even reach out, I need to know, how much does this really cost? Are there payment options? Can we afford it? If a community really understood that, they wouldn't make me dig for answers. They'd make it easy.
So David is searching for how to pay for memory care at 11 o'clock at night and stumbling upon your website. What other resources are available to him when he lands there? Is there something that puts his mind at ease, that makes him feel like he's not alone, that makes him feel like this is an option that could be helpful? Or is he just left with call now, right? And then lastly, we're going to look at our referral partner, Lisa, and what her day-to-day experience might
As a
look like.
discharge planner, I don't have time for back and forth. I need to know, do you have beds available? What's your level of care? How fast can we move someone in? If a community really understood that, they'd make it seamless. No waiting, no unnecessary emails.
So when we think about how we're partnering on the marketing side with our professional partners, I think often, especially with CRM training, we forget that we have to apply that same level of relationship-based approach and deep understanding of the journey to our professional partners that we do to our prospects and to our residents. So if the current funnel is broken, what's going to replace it? Here we're looking at our outdated linear funnel. Inquiry, tour, follow-up, move-in. Those are the things that we are measuring. Those are the things that we are tracking. And those are the things that currently we're expecting. However, that's not what the buyers are doing. They are not following our script. Instead, they have a digital first journey almost always. And when we look at 6 to 10 digital touch points before they contact us, that's not a bad thing. If we've done our homework and we have taken the time to keep our reputation solid, to have a positive and engaging social media presence, to have accessible tools on your website, whether that's the navigator that's resurfacing your brochure for the right person, or answering questions about rates with your chat, or if someone's taking a lifestyle quiz. What we're seeing is that they're engaging with us well in advance of when they speak to us. And what they're doing ultimately is self-qualifying, and they're deciding if we're worth talking to. We mentioned earlier, there's a lot of competition in the market. They're going to take into consideration who met their needs the fastest, not just who was the first one to call. So if we consider the fact that only 30% of our leads are moving beyond inquiry, they've already had several touch points prior to that. So that's a secondary drop off where we're going to go into behavioral segmentation and behavioral cues. But ultimately, what we see here with this interconnected web of behavior is that One-size messaging is not going to fit all. Manual sales follow-up and limited visibility into what's going on with that prospect is going to continue to stagnate our outcomes.
Adrienne, there was a study released, I think in fourth quarter last year from Gartner Group that said that it was more B2B sales, but you could apply some of it here because I think that because of the complexity of a senior living sale, that it does have B2B aspects to it. And it was 75% of people don't want to speak to a salesperson in the first part of their journey of search, right? So with that data in mind, and even if it is lower for the senior living sales process, and I know myself as a consumer too, I want to self shop, I want to educate myself as much as I can. It makes it even that much more important that you help me experience or go through the journey the way I want to, and that I can access what I need. So there is data out there that supports that as well on the wanting to actually speak to somebody before they finish their digital experience.
Yes, I firmly believe I know that speed to lead is a huge metric that people are judging by.
Yeah.
And by people, I also include a place for mom when I say that. Not everyone needs a tour on the first touch. Often we need to learn
Much as
more,
we'd like them to.
as much as we would like them to.
Yeah.
I would love to see them just walk in the door for us.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? And in some cases, in the case of David here, that we see with the optimal path, what his optimal path looks like, does include a self-directed buying journey. So he searches for how to pay for memory care. He gets on one of our websites and downloads a cost comparison tool. He has a call with his financial advisor, and then he visits the community, right? And we'll see here in a little bit where that comes into having a lot more value at the bottom of the funnel. But to your point, Terri, I would really encourage everyone on the webinar today to think about how you shop, especially if it's an important decision. Think about who you talk to if it's a specific decision. Do you have someone that you talk to about financial things? Do you have someone that you talk to about car things? And take into consideration that the emotionally laden journey of moving into senior living has all of those conversations included, right? So we have to treat our buyers the way we want to be treated, and give them the tools and the space that they need to self-direct. Nobody wants to be told what to do. They want to make their own choices. And so here it's about enablement. So when we look at Mary, for example, she's on there scrolling social media. She maybe downloads a lifestyle guide, but it's the personalization of an email with resident stories and the low pressure of attending a virtual coffee chat that seal the deal for her to get her to where she's ready to tour. And that's not the sale, right? But again, that buyer needs to be treated very differently than David, who's coming in having done his homework, maybe needs a little bit of emotional reassurance, if anything, from our team, and needs to know that he's not alone. And again, comparatively to our professional partners, they are so busy. And if we want what they desperately want to give us, which is a referral, we need to enable that process as much as possible. We strongly recommend specific referral landing pages for professional partners for all of our clients. And also, again, going back to treating them as though they were a prospect, giving them an update when something goes well or when something doesn't, and being responsive in our communication with that understanding. But the most important part to recognize is that because of the place where each of these three buyers are, that welcome, thanks for completing the tour, or completing the form, come for a tour email does not apply to all three. Even if you personalize it to the degree that, oh, and here's a look at our activity calendar, which might work for Mary, and maybe even have some resonance for David. But ultimately, Lisa doesn't care about your activities calendar. Not really. She's got a job to do. So the same messaging and the same timing are not going to work for all three.
We also found that in skilled nursing and working with a large skilled nursing provider that when they are at the bottom of the funnel and they do need help, and they will schedule a lot more tours because they have to make a decision now. So we've learned that. So there's that buyer as well, right? Who's at the bottom, who needs help now, who needs to make a decision. So very interesting.
Yes,
Might be a
we're gonna
path you want to add in here.
yeah, well, we're gonna talk about timeline and readiness in when
Right,
we talk about segmentation.
right.
So when we look at the use case, because I know everyone is here to talk about the business case, right, for updating our buyer's journey, there has to be some payoff for us to invest in this technology and to take the time to really audit ourselves and deep dive in this direction. So I wanted to share some statistics around specific metric improvements using our traditional funnel because that is what we measure by right now. So if we have a lead to tour, and again, our assumptions are on the screen, so and everyone will get a copy of this afterwards. But if we have a current lead to tour conversion rate of 30% and we have a lift of 35%, that's 10 more tours for every 100 leads. That's 10 conversations you weren't having before. When we look at the tour to move-in conversion, because we've given them the tools that they need to self-qualify and we've taken account to where they are in the process, we're looking at 4 additional move-ins if we can increase our tour to move-in rate by a 40% lift from 25. And when we look at increasing our sales cycles, so when we're practicing fit and readiness in terms of our admissions and in terms of our follow-up, we see a sales cycle reduction of approximately 25%. So if you have a 90-day sales cycle, wouldn't that be nice to take that down 25%, making it 22 days faster? So an example here of how you start to move these metric needles using the tools that we have available to us to enhance the journey within the funnel, looking at how do we leverage the insights that we can find in, for example, the lifestyle quiz to leverage personalization into precision revenue performance. How can I use the tools available to me to best segment, target, and engage the leads that are most likely to close? That's where we go from guesswork to granularity. So when we segment, when we talk about segmentation, we're talking about looking at the data available. Often your CRMs have big gaps. I know because I've been in them for the last 20 years. And I'm not going to bang the drum of data hygiene and garbage out. What I'm going to offer instead is the ability to enhance the data that you do have. If you have an address, if you have a phone number, if you have an email address, being able to match those individuals to the right Experian Mosaic profile. So just to back up a little bit, Experian, the credit card company, has developed a proprietary set of segmentation that leverages tons of data points, as you see here, from a demographic perspective to their home value, to the media that they consume. And they segment everyone into one of those roles, a C11 or a C13. But what that means is that we can then understand what is this household income amount? What is their previous occupation? We've filled whole buildings using previous occupation specific segmentation. You cared for others as a nurse for your whole career. Come and let us care for you. But also understanding their communication preferences. Is this a digital first buyer like we're typically seeing? Or is this someone who expects a packet in the mail? Our Mosaic segmentation allows us to break that down for senior living into their decision timeline. And again, this is leveraging tools that are available through the Waypoint Navigator or the quizzes to engage their emotional state, identify if this person is excited or if they're nervous. Look at financial readiness. Are these people who are likely to have long-term care insurance? Are they a planner? Are they the type of person who's set aside for the future? And as I mentioned, their engagement preferences. So we are able to go from a stick figure of a person to a full color image of who they are and how they operate in the world. But personalization, you can't just segment your way into personalization. We have to also look at the behaviors that are exhibited by that persona. So if we see a lead that's engaging with digital content, we then leverage that into the CRM as a behavior signal. And once we've got that behavior signal in place, now we can respond appropriately to that person. So if the behavior signal is just looking, right? We're not going to lead with, come in for a tour. We might send an explainer video with some testimonials in it. If it's someone who is digital first and prefers phone communication, we might send a text. But taking those things into consideration, leveraging the information someone has taken the time to share with us, especially, is essential for building trust throughout the journey. So if we can leverage automation, that frees up our sales teams to do creative follow-up. That allows them to focus their time on those high-fit leads. Marketing can shift from making generic flyers to delivering content that's really resonant. And your executive teams are able to forecast your pipeline velocity much more clearly when we are understanding someone's timing readiness. So instead of sending the same message to everyone, we really do need to tailor that next step based on the last step that they took. And we wanted everyone to leave today with something really actionable. So this sounds like a lot to do, and it is, but that's okay because a little bit of momentum can really cause transformational change. So it's helpful to start with these 5 points. Turn your insights into action by reviewing and analyzing the data you have. Where are the gaps? What don't we know? And start to get curious. So then look at the patterns that exist. Do we have a lot of veterans? Do we have a lot of gardeners? Do we have a lot of people interested in pets? Start to personalize that outreach. And then align those messages across teams. Make sure that the story that marketing is telling is the story sales is telling, is the experience the person is ultimately seeing when they come in for a tour. And that will allow you to prioritize and act on those qualified leads and continue to test and optimize your processes. We really need to start to embrace the idea of life as a learning laboratory, and these are all experiments. So ask your sales team. They can create a quick reference sheet for specific referral personas. I know that we get most of our referrals from this Care Patrol group. This is who we talk to. Get clear on who you're talking to. And as I said for marketing, sync up those messages with what sales is hearing and saying. Is sales out there doing outreach and hearing that nobody knows who we are? Okay, marketing, we need to shift to more of a brand awareness focus. For executive directors and leadership teams, take a look at your top performing conversion paths, based on audience. Are your adult children typically web conversions, and your prospects for an IL community are more of a pick up the phone and call from an ad? Take the time to dive deep into those. And then if you're on the admission side, prioritize not just by inquiry date, but by urgency, as Terri, to your point, about making sure that these people have communicated to us that they have a 10-day window. Make sure that those are at the top of your list. Terri, is there anything you would add in terms of turning insights into actions or next steps?
No, I think this is really great. It's funny, I was at Leaning Age, Rhode Island last week for their state conference, and there was a speaker, Anna Hall, spoke about purpose. And one of the things, and I pulled it up while you were saying, it says, humans are meaning-making machines. So, so if you take that into consideration, is that, you're creating experiences, right? Or meaning for individuals that are coming to your community, right? So it's interesting.
Yes, and we want to help them in a way that makes sense to them, that
Yeah.
offer purpose to their reaching out.
Yeah, exactly.
So we wanted to leave lots of time for questions, but for those of you who participated in the pre-webinar survey, I want to say thank you. We love data. Data is our best friend, whether it's for personalization purposes or for today for our presentation. It looks solidly like our group is split in terms of we're not getting enough insights from our CRM or getting high quality leads. We're not getting high quality leads and they're dropping off. We're not getting that close. And ultimately just going back to that CRM is the challenge. So how can we answer your questions and support you as you all move forward in tackling the first of any of the steps we've outlined for behavioral segmentation and personalization?
Yeah, let's open it up for Q&A. Feel free to unmute and ask questions if you want. I know there was a lot in that last slide. Maybe Adrienne, while we wait for people to ask questions, maybe you could give like some insights on tips on some simple things to do. Like, for example, a lot of our customers we'll use our lifestyle quiz, capture the data, send it into HubSpot or whatever marketing automation platform they're using, and then do some drip campaigns based on how they answered the question, right? So it's more personalized follow-up versus standardized follow-up. So are there any other tips maybe that you can give to everyone while we wait to hear what questions people have?
Yeah. So from the cross-discipline perspective of trying to really organizationally shift how you look at the funnel, I do believe it starts with conversation as a team, looking at what are we all hearing? There's often silos between what we see in marketing and what we see in sales and how operations feels about what they're seeing across the board. And so sitting down and having a conversation with our sales teams saying, what questions do you get asked over and over again? Those are things that should go on the FAQ. Um, what talking to your activities programming team and saying, hey, is there anything that really hits for our residents when we do it? Is that something that we could leverage into a marketing event and bring people in for? When we're talking about, as I said, the admissions teams, when you have a portal, a clear space for your referral sources to come to you and give you information in a way that's captured in real time and dropped into your CRM, that's a quick win. And I think there's a lot of, in this list, there's lots of things that you can start to do that will create some momentum. As I said, this is a flywheel. We really need to think of it as when we're starting a lawnmower, those first couple pulls, while they wrench your shoulder, they are necessary to get that flywheel moving. And so starting with a database analysis, where are the gaps in this information? Are we capturing physical addresses? If someone does want us to send out a package, do we need to adjust our forms accordingly? So those are some of the initial quick wins that I can definitely see taking away today and getting started with. If there's anything specific from the leadership side, I think that it's helpful for those teams just to really open their ears and listen and leverage what is going. One of the things I like to do is leverage what is going well. If we know that our residents are really happy with recent updates we've made to our dining program, then let's leverage that and look for foodies within our database. Right. And Mosaic, one of my favorite things about it, speaking of food, this came up yesterday in a meeting. When we do the Experian Mosaic segmentation, we can actually see what types of cars they drive. So you can cross-check that against the parking lot. But we also know what types of restaurants they frequent. I think that's really useful information for our dining teams to effectively regionalize their menus on an ongoing basis. So the insights really never stop, but they all do start with getting an initial data append of your current audience, looking at where those gaps are, enriching the data where appropriate, and then leveraging that into leveraging those patterns into some clear segmentation campaigns.
Interesting. Any questions out there? I don't want to cut everyone off and us do all the talking. I mean, I have a kind of response to that, something kind of fun, but I really want to make sure that people are getting their questions answered. So please feel free to unmute or put your questions in chat if you have any. It looks like we don't have any questions. So Adrienne, when we first started our company, I think I told you this, that we wanted to leverage data to provide a more personalized experience. And the story went back to a Lorna Doone cookie. That if my mother loves Lorna Doone cookies, why isn't somebody asking me when I go in to visit a place that has hospitality what I might like to drink on my visit and what is my favorite snack? It's really small, but to me it's really personalized. And I think our AI assistants that are out there in the market will start to capture information about what consumers are asking, which is really important so we can develop our content and build off of our content in general, which is really important. And then helping and enabling sales teams to use that data because they're running hard. So we're working on how do we use AI to take that lifestyle quiz, build a summary around that consumer, and then give that salespeople the top 3 questions, open-ended questions that they can ask in order to have a better conversation overall and better discovery. So a lot of great stuff here.
I think that's fantastic. Going into a call with prep discovery questions is so powerful. It takes a huge lift off of the sales team,
Yeah.
and helps them be more prepared.
Yeah.
One of my favorite sales trainings that we've done was in the Pacific Northwest when we did pre-surveys to all of the participants. We did some personality testing, but we also, on the road to sales excellence, asked them what snack they would like, what they would grab at the convenience store for a drink, salty and sweet, and what their favorite or what the car was, what color the car was that they were jumping into.
Yeah.
And so at the end of the first half of the day, we had a snack. And what came out were personalized bags for every single individual who had completed the pre-survey with and we had to do some running. We had to find some spicy pickles and a few other very odd items. But those moments of surprise and delight that we went out of our way for
Yeah.
made it very clear to the participants that we cared, which is ultimately how we want our prospects to feel. More importantly, those individuals who didn't do the discovery got a brown sack with an apple and a bottle of water and a granola bar, because that is what generic follow-up looks like.
Interesting. Very interesting. All right. No questions at all. Nobody has any questions. It's a shy bunch today.
No, but Adrienne, that surprise and delight is such a good memory trigger when people are visiting a community. It's absolutely spot on.
It is. I mean, we strongly recommend everyone have their signature item, but and ideally one with a story. So we have one client that does zucchini bread, and they do zucchini bread because they have a huge community garden, and the first 10% of all of the garden's yield goes to donation for free.
Cool.
Right. So, and then we get to tell that story. I think storytelling is a huge part of the process, and it requires taking the time to learn their story as well. The idea of surprise and delight reminds me of, especially when someone is going through a hard time, we remember who was there for us. We remember who went out of their way to be kind. And I know I've been saying this for about a year, but I will die on the hill of last man standing. We do market research all the time. And to know that 3 years later, there is a salesperson who's still calling to follow up, even though it's a mystery shop, really reinforces that they're still there. They're still caring. They're still available when we need them. And that's really, when you think about it, we put ourselves in the buyer's journey so that we can sit on the other side of the table. And we have to do that because as people, when we're in times of duress, and these are duress-driven decisions a lot of the time, when we're under duress, we want to be treated a certain way. We want our emotions to be taken into consideration. And that's the behavioral triggers are what give us that awareness, but it's up to us to be emotionally intelligent as organizations, as we can, to deliver a response that resonates with that person, that they will remember, that even if they choose not to move in here, that they will tell their friends about.
Yeah, I mean, the data you shared today really proves that if you do incorporate some type of personalization into your strategy, that it does drive revenue, not just from in tours. I mean, you showed that today in your case study, but at the end of the day, there are studies by Salesforce in very large companies that have looked into personalization, and that by personalizing the journey, even if it is small things, right, that matter to someone, that it does make an impact on bottom line, and that consumers now expect some version of personalization. We get it when we're on Netflix. Oh, you like this, so you like this, right? And that's online. That's different. That's digital. But at the end of the day, we all expect some level of personalization, someone to hear what matters to us, our why. I have my favorite cartoon. We should put it in here. It's two people talking. It's the salesperson, da, 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 da. It's the prospect on this side, and there's Z's coming out of his mouth, and then there are two circles, and the two circles intersect, and in the middle is what matters. Right? But the salesperson's not hitting what matters. Or it could be marketing too now, right? With digital. And then you have the salesperson, you have the prospect there just going, like, they're not hearing what's important to me, and they're talking. I mean, I've been in sales my whole life, and I'm so guilty of it too, is that I get so excited about product that I just start talking about it, but at the end of the day, it's really important to understand what our clients are going through, what they're trying to achieve, what their overall marketing strategy is, who are their other partners, how do we work with those partners, how do we make that happen. But it's the same thing for senior living providers, bringing in prospective residents or families, and talking to them and digging deeper, and
Yeah,
understanding what matters. So yeah.
and capturing as much of that in the CRM so that you're able to track that information and behavior. I'm not banging on the drum.
Yeah.
Let's leverage the information that we have, enhance it with the data that we can get. But ultimately, I just recorded yesterday with James Lee a podcast for Welcome Disruption, and we were talking about the importance of charting and that caregivers didn't become caregivers to chart. And salespeople didn't become salespeople to update notes in the CRM. They became salespeople because they want to help. And sometimes when we're excited about our solution, we, forget to listen. But really, if we want to help, we have to get to know them.
Yeah.
And we can support that effort digitally so that our salespeople can do a much better job of meeting them where they are in the journey and then helping them move into the right solution for them. And there is no dollar figure on goodwill. I remember a salesperson who was working really hard to help a move-in who had an adult child that was disabled. And in finding and going out of her way to find a solution for the child, it solidified their relationship with the prospect. And ultimately, they didn't move in, but they've referred multiple people since then.
Yeah. Yeah. Contract on the more on the concrete side with regards to CRMs, just so people are aware. I mean, if you're a Welcome Home user, there is a section in there called trades. And you can capture data on the front end of your website and utilize that section to put traits in. So for example, who did we do that with? It's Sequoia, I think. They leveraged our lifestyle quiz to capture a bunch of data points about potential prospects, but then it goes into a trait section in Welcome Home, which then is shared with the sales team. And I think that, moving away from just throwing everything into notes, you go in and you look at your CRM and you have a whole bunch of notes about what that consumer had shared through the quiz. And we often find that it's not always mid-funnel, but it's nice to offer a way for people to engage with your brand and share data while they're doing their research. It goes back to your journey. Every customer has a different journey, right? So you want to present multiple options for them to engage with you. Of course, we want them to tour. That's a no-brainer. And if they're ready, fantastic. But, are there downloadable financial guides? Are there, a quiz like the lifestyle quiz we have, or rubric, or whatever your assessment might be? But the question is, how are you getting that data from the tool, right? Or your forms, any type of form. We have pro forms, smart forms, but that get the form data into the CRM in a way that the salespeople will use it. And then you can leverage that data. And, with HubSpot, you can go field to field. So we can match field to field, make sure that all that data is coming in. And then you need workflows on the Welcome Home side or on the HubSpot side. And I'm pretty sure Inquire does the same thing. I think it's limited with Sherpa, but there are ways to do it. Have the conversations with your vendors, have a conversation with your partners, or find somebody who can help you just start, crawl, walk, run. It doesn't always have to be. I met with someone this week is they didn't even have a CRM yet. So I'm like, just get a free version of HubSpot. Just start tracking so you know what's going on. Your prospects, your referral partners. It was a very rural community. They were using a lot of their data all the leads were coming from referral partners. And I'm like, you got to start somewhere, So, yeah, interesting. You can crawl, walk, run. You don't have to come out running. Is the point.
And it's a long game. I really want to reinforce that. You mentioned Gartner earlier. Forrester did a study, and over the course of, I believe it was 13 years, they proved that there's a 700% ROI on increasing your efforts around customer intelligence.
What is that number?
700%.
Holy cow.
I couldn't believe it either. But again, that's longitudinally when you invest as an organization in customer intelligence. So I like using that kind of overarching caveat to refer to any of the digital quizzes that we see out there, any of the market research or focus group data that you're using, any of the diversity surveys that you're releasing at your community. All of that needs to be captured, to your point, Terri, system to system, and leveraged. What happens often is the metrics associated with marketing sit in the marketing, and the metrics associated with sales sit in the sales. And we've come in, part of what Adage does is that 360-degree review to help understand what information over here needs to be communicated over here and aligning those teams. But that is absolutely something that they can start with on their own,
Yeah.
crawl, run. Being aware that the buyer's journey is different, sitting down as a team and drawing it on a whiteboard. What do we see? And does that match the CRM? So one of the things I love that you brought up Sherpa,
This is your superpower, though. I've seen her work.
I love drawing
Writing in
surveys.
Google Docs. That's crazy.
What's wild is we can do it using if the data is in the CRM, we can actually reverse engineer what any given uh, lead's journey looks like. And we can also see where those drop-off points are. And I think that, we use the heaven or hell rule. We keep following up until they go to heaven or they tell us to go to hell. But at the end of the day, waiting 30 days and closing someone out as a lost lead, I have seen treasure fall into lost lead status. And even in doing a quick scan, I remember recently I was looking at a CRM and it said moved in with granddaughter and it was dated 6 months ago. And I thought, ooh, now's the time to follow up. I bet we'll see how it's going. We have to be really open-minded and honest with what this journey really looks like for people.
Yeah, and I think invest in a little bit in our sales teams. And I know that Sherpa's philosophy is all around building a story and personalization from a sales training perspective, but really focusing on that sales training. We do some every once in a while. We've been invited to customers and we talk about the data we capture and then how can they leverage that data to have better conversations and build more trust. And really focus on that piece. But the marketing part is great, but we also need to empower the salespeople to understand how to leverage this information and also how to be, I think, just more in tune with consumers and what their expectations are now. And how do you really build deeper trust, ask more questions, understand more about them, and then be able to really differentiate it and offer true value. Find out the why, the real why, the whys. I want to say why.
All of the whys.
Why. Yeah.
So, yeah, our sales trainings are very experiential, just like the lunch
Yeah.
example that I gave.
Yeah.
But I do see a lot of value in taking the time to chart that journey
Yeah.
and sitting down cross-functionally to
I
do that.
100% agree with you. I
But
agree
the
with you.
Sherpa reference
Start
reminds
small.
they use the video from Aaron Brockovich, and at least they did in one of the trainings that I went to, where the salesperson has everything up here and the lawyer is sitting there with a box of files and is like, okay, Anna, so and so, and Aaron can rattle it off. That's wonderful. You can't do that at scale. I mean, maybe she could, but we can't support um, a salesperson who keeps it all up here and does a great job. Marketing can't be there to support you with the right tools unless that communication is happening. What
Yeah.
questions are you being asked? We'll build an FAQ around it. I remember I had one community that was memory care only, and for whatever reason, that particular location was very high in early onset. So we created a separate set of content just around early onset for that community.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Taking a look at what percentage of your individuals are married versus single,
Yeah.
and leveraging that over into how are we presenting our community? Are we presenting as like a couples only kind of retirement community, or are we open and inclusive and make this look welcoming to all? So those are, yeah, definitely some of the things that strong salespeople, if they're really leveraging their CRM, are able to let marketing help them at scale.
Yeah. And I think leaning into your partners too. I mean, when we look at the data, like we see, like thousands of people are engaging in a pricing and floor plans CTA, whether it's just going to a linked page or it's actually a form. It's that you look at that data and you go, wow, holy cow. Yeah, people do want to know how much. I think someone mentioned pricing in the survey. And and we do want to know, right, what the pricing is or whether we can afford it before we invest in it. But when we looked at that data and it was like 8,900 people that had visited the websites had clicked on this link, we're like, well, they're looking for content. They need information. And the industry doesn't want to share pricing. They'll share starting at in some cases, but I understand that because at the end of the day, it's very needs driven, right? Especially assisted living. And is that it's based on what they need. So what we did with them is what they did actually is they created this beautiful downloadable financial guide that just really talked about the different things that help pay for senior living, maybe a starting at cost, but really outlining why the pricing isn't there and that they should speak with an advisor about it. But it turned out to be one of their it is their highest converting mechanism into the sales funnel. Because it is a top of mind awareness, like you mentioned, for one of your buyers, but not all. But it
David
is
was
without
very
question.
concerned about how do I pay for this?
Yeah.
And I think that happens a lot. One of my favorite sales quotes is in the absence of value, price becomes the determining factor, right? So in the absence of value, we haven't created the value yet. The price might be sticker shock. To your point, we've recently released some social content around this. I believe in pricing transparency to the degree that I put my own pricing on our agency website
Yeah.
because that's what the consumer expects and deserves.
Yeah.
Here's the thing though. I love that within your platform, you're able to say, here's the starting at rate, but
Yeah.
also have a link to understanding how to pay for this,
Yeah.
right? And leading them to an answer.
Yeah.
Part of what they're doing in the research phase is asking questions, trying to find answers to those questions, but they don't even know what they need to ask yet. So by giving them a fantastic tool like Ways to Pay, you can really help your sales team help them close the deal.
Yeah. And as a consumer, I don't know if we have health centers or, senior living providers like skilled nursing centers online, but the one thing that as a consumer and helping my grandmother and going through this is, boy, it would be really great to know what to expect from the sales process. Right. Like just a what to expect guide. When you engage with us, what that was that you would expect? Because at the end of the day, most people haven't been through this before. So if you could set their mind at ease and say, in general, when somebody looks at senior living, this is the process, right? And it's just 5 steps, like really simple, but the person goes, I get it. That's why they're trying to get me to tour, right? Or
That feels doable. I think I can handle that. Five
yeah,
steps.
exactly, exactly. So I that to me just feels right. It would be like, okay, this might be the first time I've ever looked at senior living, right? It surely might be the first time I ever looked at skilled nursing, right? So what to expect? What to expect guide. So the first person I see out there with that, I'll be like having a celebration.
Yes, I had a CCRC that I worked with, and because that decision is a
Yeah,
longer time
it's more
and
complex.
quite complicated,
Yeah,
I said we should redesign the actual collaterals to
yeah,
be the journey, like
yeah,
stage one,
yeah,
stage two, stage three, and make it interactive.
yeah, yeah.
I think there's a lot that we can do there, with and in this and now
And
obviously
AI is going to change a lot of
we
this too.
can leverage in those digital tools.
Yeah. We went off on a tangent. Sorry, everybody. But please, does anybody have any questions? Just a couple things to wrap up. We're going to send out a recording so you could go. You'll have a copy of the deck. We also have released Coffee with Waypoint. It was really successful last year. We did 12 of them last year. This year, we're only going to do 4. But if you want to get a mug for joining today, we'll send in the email, just send us an address that you want to send it to, and we'll probably put a little gifty in there. But anyways, we're going to call it the Mug Club, and we're going to try to bring more valuable content. And I'm going to put Adrienne on the spot right now, and I'm going to say, Adrienne, I'd like you to come back for the next one and talk about personas.
I would absolutely
Would you?
love.
Okay, great. And we're working on some things too that we can present, but I would love to have you back, and I would love to dig in a little bit more deeply for everyone so they can
Yeah.
understand who these buyers are and how they can create content that's meaningful to the specific types of buyers. And just, crawl, walk, run. Start with something small. Put something
Yeah.
in forms on your website that captures a little bit more data. You can use lifestyle quizzes like we have, or you can use other things, but start capturing some data. Leverage that data to do some special things. And then, get that message across your entire teams. But if you need any help, of course, we're here. And feel free to reach out to us. But we appreciate you guys all attending. It was a nice group. We would love more questions. Maybe next time we'll make it more interactive.
We do have just a quick reminder. There is a senior housing news webinar coming up on May 6th that Adage is going to be presenting with a nice, fun walkthrough of Mosaic segmentation and
Sweet.
Experian personas. So if you'd like to join us, we can maybe put that link in the follow-up email as well.
Oh, absolutely. 100%. Have a great day, everybody. I think we went a little over. Thanks for joining.